Hello there, very good evening and welcome to Primetime News on TV1. Let's start off with a look at your top stories tonight.
Sri Lanka beat the Netherlands, becomes first team from Group A to enter the Super 12. 22nd Amendment taken up for debate in Parliament. Opposition leader lays down conditions for support. Bureau of Rehabilitation Bill inconsistent with the Constitution. A determination from the Supreme Court. Joint protest in Mahyanganaya against suppression. Opposition parties, except for the JVP, enter a common framework for polls. Case filed against individual police officers for obstructing peaceful protests.
Sri Lanka and the Netherlands both progressed to the Super 12 stage of the Men's T20 World Cup following a thrilling conclusion to the Group A matches. They finished first and second in the group respectively to qualify for the next stage of the games starting on the 22nd of October.
Sri Lanka won the Asia Cup in September, but their World Cup campaign started disastrously with a shock defeat to Namibia. But in a must-win game to secure their place in the next stage, they responded to the pressure impressively. The Netherlands bowlers dominated initially, restricting Sri Lanka to just 36 runs from the opening 6-over power play. That soon became 36 for the loss of 2 wickets, as Paul van Meekeren took 2 wickets in 2 balls, bowling opener Pathum Nissanka for 14 before trapping Dhananjaya De Silva LBW for a golden duck. But Mendes stood in their way. A partnership of 60 for the 3rd wicket with Charita Salanka rebuilt the innings to allow him to accelerate. Sri Lanka adding 102 runs from the final 10 overs. His innings of 79 came to an end in the final over and set up an imposing total for the Netherlands to chase. The opener smashed 79 runs from 44 balls to help pace Sri Lanka as the island nation posted 162 for the loss of 6 in ideal batting conditions. Pacer Paul van Meekeren was the pick of the bowlers for the Netherlands, while veteran spinner Rolaf van der Merwe limped from the field late in the innings with what appeared to be an injury. The Dutch never got going in their chase. They lost their first 3 wickets for just 47 runs and then kept losing more at regular intervals. But opening batter Mac O'Dowd hanged around and tried his best to get Netherlands as close to the target as possible. He remained unbeaten on 71 from 53 deliveries, an innings consisting of 6 fours and 3 sixes, as Netherlands reached 146 runs for the loss of 9 wickets in their full quarter of overs.
The tournament continues. Around his legs.
But wonderfully played, Kushal Mendes.
It was a slow wicket for spin and pace. We sent a message that the wicket was slow and we will bat normally. That allowed us to score more in the last 4 overs. It was reported that Pathum Nissanka had also suffered an injury, dealing a blow to Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka's main challenge is the injury of Pathum Nissanka. Kushal Mendes said he will be sent for a scan and thereafter it will be decided whether or not he will play in the next game.
Let's now cross over to Newsfirst Jayamal Ratnayaka, who is at Stein Studios for more.
It was certainly a very exciting and exhilarating day in the land down under, where Sri Lanka took on the Netherlands early this morning, whereas the UAE and Namibia also clashed heads thereafter. Luckily, after a disastrous start to their qualifying campaign in the T20 World Cup, Sri Lanka secured a very vital victory over the Netherlands and qualified in Group A of the Super 12s alongside Netherlands. It was heartbreak for Namibia, who in the first match in the curtain raise of the T20 World Cup defeated Sri Lanka very emphatically. However, Namibia do not qualify for the Super 12s, and it is Sri Lanka and the Netherlands that qualify for the Super 12s. With that, Sri Lanka fall into Group 1 of the Super 12s, where they will face Afghanistan, Australia, England, New Zealand, and the runner-up of Group B. We must mention that there is more round 1 action happening tomorrow. In Group B, there is West Indies, Ireland, Scotland and Zimbabwe. Tomorrow early morning, Ireland will take on West Indies, and thereafter Scotland will take on Zimbabwe. And then finally, we will be able to finalize the Super 12 group and give you the final result of the two groups. Stay tuned to Sirasa TV. We will continue to bring you live coverage of the entire World Cup as we have continued to do so. And let's hope that Sri Lanka make it all the way this year's World Cup.
Thank you very much, Jayamal. Now taking a look at news from here at home. A protest took place in Mahayangane demanding the immediate release of IUSF activists detained under the Prevention of Terrorism Act.
A protest march demanding the immediate release of Vasantha Mudalige and Venerable Galveva Siridhamma Matero, who are detained under the controversial Prevention of Terrorism Act, took place from Dehigolla Temple to the Mahayangane Clock Tower. As far as we know, there are no charges against Vasantha and Siridhamma Matero. The charges are still pending. Together with the people of Mahayangane, we demand that Vasantha and Siridhamma Matero be released immediately. Why are people detained like this? Why are they doing shameful work? Why are the dreams of these young people being ruined so much? The children of this country do not have food, and the people of this country have no way to live. Stop this dirty work. Don't take this forward from here. The government's position is that the people's struggle will stop when Vasantha Mudalige is imprisoned. But the monks, students, people, farmers and teachers and principals of this town of Mahayangane came together to say, release Vasantha Mudalige and Siridhamma Matero. Ranil and Rajapaksha, Basil, all of you have to prepare to face the people's struggles.
Prevention of Terrorism Act, which was brought about in 1979. Today we see PTA against every citizen in this country. We are tied up. It's police, it's army, it's military force. Now it's encroaching into something that is very important, the legal body. But today it has come into the civilian structure. For almost 2 months, Vasantha Mudalige and the Bhikkhu have been incarcerated, in prison, in detention without any charge. And the government, in repressing the youth of this country, what are they trying to? They are repressing the people. These students represent the people in this country, and we have to stand by them in this very hour of need.
Who are they worried about? We have to ask that question, because this is also coming under a broader climate of legal repression. Now they have arrested even students, labeling them as terrorists. They try to bring about a high security zones bill to enclose spaces away from the people. And now they are trying to bring about the Rehabilitation Bureau. But what is that rehabilitation? Would there be any freedom, or would it only lead to further torture and abuse of power? So what we are seeing is a legal black hole into which our freedoms are being sucked in. Our country is on the brink of starvation, and now they are using a tax to keep people from protesting and demanding their rightful economic and social rights.
A group of citizens staged a silent protest at the Liberty Roundabout in Kolpiti, Colombo. This protest was organized against bribery, corruption, theft and state suppression. The protesters were seen with a banner that said the protesters will not stop until the suppression is over.
Try to harass the students. So I guess the police has to stop that, getting worse day by day. So they should try to learn that they are working for the people. At the end of the day, they should support the people.
Unfortunately, the government and the president thinks that this is a threat, and therefore the police and the forces attack us when we're just peacefully rallying.
You know, they're taxing ordinary people, and yet there is so much of waste in government and so much of corruption. So the poor people are funding politicians and their cronies, which doesn't seem right at a time when food is even out of reach for ordinary people.
State Minister D.V. Chanaka yesterday revealed the amount paid as demurrage for fuel shipments from January this year. From the 1st of January 2022 to the 18th of October 2022, we have paid $0.452 million as demurrage for 4 shipments. We presume that we will have to pay a total of $10.4 million for another 27 shipments. Since rating agencies downgraded our country's standing due to the forex crisis during the end of last year, fuel suppliers have stopped providing fuel on long-term credit at concessionary terms. Demurrage had to be paid for fuel shipments as they were docked at the port for a longer period, as we could not get enough rupees in foreign exchange from the central bank. The shortage of dollars has resulted in the country paying demurrage for fuel shipments. The burden of that too has been put on the people. Why did this happen? Economic experts warned of the disastrous fate that will befall the economy of Sri Lanka long before the economic crisis began. However, those in power did not even for a second think of making the right decisions. When Sri Lanka's dollar reserves were at rock bottom, a bond repayment of $500 million was settled on the 18th of January this year. This was done under the false pretext that Sri Lanka's foreign reserves are at $3.1 billion after receiving a swap facility from China. However, the conditions attached to the swap facility from China created issues in using the foreign exchange under the facility. 3 months after the $500 million bond repayment was made, exactly on the 12th of April 2022, Sri Lanka announced it will default on debt servicing. Instead of letting the market determine the exchange rate of the rupee to the dollar, the rupee was pegged at 203 against the dollar, and Sri Lanka's foreign reserves were bled dry to maintain this. Without making proper decisions at the proper time, the dollar was allowed to float suddenly on the 7th of March. This further aggravated the forex crisis in the country. $6.9 million was paid for a Chinese ship supposedly carrying organic fertilizer, but not a single ounce of this fertilizer shipment landed on the shores of Sri Lanka. These are only a few decisions that show how callous our leaders were in running the country. How will international fuel suppliers issue fuel on long-term credit when inept leaders like this are running the country? In addition to all of this, the economic crimes perpetrated by our leaders also bled the country's foreign exchange reserves.
The
cost of constructing the Lotus Tower was 16,725.5 million rupees. But according to the calculations of Transparency International Sri Lanka, the total cost according to the average of the dollar exchange rate for 10 years is 21,860.7 million rupees. After the bond scam, the central bank is still to reclaim a sum of 18 billion rupees. Further, a sum of 20 billion rupees needs to be charged from Ajit Nivad Cabral for the losses he caused to the Employees Provident Fund. Also, the payment made for the Chinese organic fertilizer ship needs to be reimbursed. The people are owed a sum of 16,763 million rupees for the sugar scam that was perpetrated. Without exerting further pressure on the people of this country, reduce corruption, reduce waste, return the stolen funds and develop this country. We ask this of the leaders of this country.
As promised yesterday, News First continues to pursue the tragedy of modern-day slavery that our unsuspecting, poverty-ridden women are being lured into. Sri Lankans going overseas for work need to beware of the massive scams that are being carried out by unscrupulous job agents in various parts of the country who trap our women into slavery in the Middle East. Escalating poverty and economic turmoil have coerced thousands of women into finding employment as housemaids in the Middle East. Yesterday, we reported on the plight of some 50 to 60 female workers in Dubai who are being mistreated and even starved. Newsfirst has discovered that one of the methods being used to entrap these women is by sending them illegally on visitor visas instead of proper work visas. Newsfirst's Shania pronounced and Nisa Surya Arachi filed this report.
Who is responsible for protecting the labour rights of foreign workers? According to the Sri Lanka Bureau of Foreign Employment, if workers are managed by agencies and agents that have been registered with the Bureau, then workers' rights can be protected. The role of registered agencies includes recruitment, training and conducting medical examinations on prospective clients who are suitable for the job role. The agency would then be the first point of contact for the workers to lodge a complaint. The agencies facing allegations over these 50 to 60 women are Smart Travel Agency Kurunegala and an agency in Ajman, Dubai that is being run by 3 Sri Lankan women. Newsfirst reached out to both these agencies for comment but have not received any response from them. A woman by the name of Nadisha, whose full name has not been revealed, is said to be the agent directly in charge of the workers in Dubai.
Smart Travels කියලා තමයි ඒකේ agency නම.
Smart Travels is the name of the agency in Kurunegala. We went through a broker. The broker is a woman in our village. Broker's name is Sunitra Mendis. They never registered us at the Foreign Employment Bureau. We never signed any agreements. They told us they're not sending us using a visit visa. They told us they're sending us with a legitimate work visa. We found out it was a visit visa once we already arrived at the airport. Then I called my broker immediately and said this is not right. She told me that's how they send people to Dubai now. She told me not to worry and that people there will come and pick us up the next day. They confiscated our phones, passports and all our documentation as soon as we arrived in Dubai. There were 65 women there inside the room. It was 3 in the morning when we arrived at the Ajman agency in Dubai. They told us not to worry and that everything will be fine and they will take care of us for 2 years. That's what they told us when they sent us there. It's Nadisha and Sachika and another woman that's running the agency in Dubai. Then they took a voice recording from me saying they didn't take any money from me. They refused to send me back to Sri Lanka if I didn't say what they asked in the recording. Said they spent money on me. All I asked was for my salary. I earned that salary by eating the food they throw away and their leftovers. The Foreign Employment Bureau informed me that a representative from the agency will come to the Bureau to give a statement. They asked me to come to the Bureau in Anuradhapura as well. I am going there tomorrow to see what they have to say. I just want my salary. I got into debt for this.
As per the SLBFE Bureau Act number 21 of 1985, ensure the protection and well-being of Sri Lankan migrant workers is one of the objectives of Foreign Employment Bureau. So we have taken several measures to protect our Sri Lankans working abroad. One of such measures is to get them registered prior to their departure. So this is a compulsory and this is a requirement as per the Act. So if anyone wishes to go without Foreign Employment Bureau registration, that's a violation of the law. So we urge all the citizens, those who are ready to go for employment, get the Bureau registration so that your family members, you and your working place all are secure.
For the past several weeks, Newsfirst has been reporting on the Gammadda door-to-door initiative, in which volunteers from Gammadda have been walking the length and breadth of rural Sri Lanka, talking to the people and meeting them in their homes. We bring you daily updates from all parts of Sri Lanka, and the stories are mostly dire in most parts of our country. You might be wondering why Gammadda does this and what the outcome is. Well, take a look for yourself.
Gammadda began over a decade ago as an attempt to understand poverty and underdevelopment in rural Sri Lanka. This is part of the Gammadda philosophy of action out of fact. We want to fully understand the facts before taking any action. This is what prompted Gammadda to organize village-level community meetings across the country for several years, helping the people share their true stories. We held hundreds of meetings in all parts of Sri Lanka for years and years, and what we saw led us to partner with the University of Peradeniya and begin a research initiative where we physically walked to people's homes and listened to what they had to say. We did this first in 2016 and then every year after that. With each year, we gathered deeper insight into the true plight of rural Sri Lanka and most importantly, how Gammadda can help. It is these facts gathered on the ground that helps Gammadda resolve crucial problems faced by the most destitute communities. The rural projects that Gammadda then takes responsibility for, such as clean drinking water, rural roads, bridges, community centers, etc., are all the result of this committed, determined effort by young Gammadda volunteers. And the strength behind every single one of those projects is you, ordinary Sri Lankans who support the movement. You have made Gammadda the largest rural development movement in Sri Lanka, and that has led to acclaimed global seats of learning such as the Clinton School of Public Service and Brown University in the United States to partner with Gammadda. This year too, Gammadda was able to conduct its door-to-door initiative by deploying our young teams along with university students to the most rural areas of the nation.
Failure to make right decisions at the right time and rampant corruption. The people of this country are the ones who are paying the price at the end of the day. On the 16th day of the Gammadda door-to-door program, our teams visited remote villages in 3 districts and we saw this firsthand.
A handful of people siphoned off millions of US dollars through various scams involving sugar imports, treasury bonds, coconut oil and even petroleum imports. However, rural Sri Lankans, including those in the village of Puliyankaladi, Vakare in the Batiklo district, are forced to make ends meet by selling plums that they pick off trees in the forest. The elder sibling of these young boys explained their woes that have gone unheard. Around 46 boats in the Pudur fisheries village in Vakare have not set sail for over 6 months because the fishermen lack fuel to power up these boats. Although they are able to maneuver their boats close to the shore, the sea area in question does not give them a good catch, and sometimes there is no fish at all. What is more interesting is that these people are living right next to a priceless resource on earth, that is an ilmenite deposit, and these fishermen have an additional burden on their laurels to protect this resource as well. The small-time industrialists who struggle to make ends meet have now been left even more helpless. The brass industry is famous in Kirivaula, Gadaladeniya, Pamunua, Velivala, Rabsegamua and Pilimadsalava in Kandy, and these craftsmen not only supplied their products to the whole of Sri Lanka but also to international markets. The local brass industry that was spread across 25 known locations is now confined to a few. The craftsman told Gammadda that a kilogram of raw brass that was at 200 rupees is now priced at 900 rupees. The craftsmen, who are now mostly unemployed, are facing various issues to make ends meet and provide for their families. Although there are tanks around the village, the people of Nelumveva in Thanamalvilla, where about 200 families live, purchase drinking water at a price of 4 rupees per litre. These people do not have the strength to build a facility where they can get clean water, and no one seems to be paying attention to their woes. The Gammadda teams toured across the country from door to door for the past 16 days to identify the issues faced by rural Sri Lankans. The Gammadda door-to-door teams have already covered the districts of Jaffna, Mullaitivu, Kilinochchi, Polonnaruwa, Matale, Kalutara, Ratnapura, Galle, Anuradhapura, Mena, Mathura, Putlam, Vaunia, Kurunegala, Hambantota and Trincomalee. This journey will not end. The Gum at the Door-to-Door program will press on.
News First with the people.
News First, main sponsor.
25% for 2 months, 25.5% for 4 months. Valuable FD. 25% for 2 months, 25.5% for 4 months. Valuable FD.
Welcome back to the news. The Supreme Court of Sri Lanka has determined that the Bureau of Rehabilitation Bill as a whole is inconsistent with certain articles of the Constitution, and as such, it may only be enacted by a special majority as required by the Constitution.
The bill as a whole is inconsistent with Article 12(1) of the Constitution and as such may be enacted only by the special majority required by the Article 84(2) of the Constitution. However, this inconsistency shall cease if, number 1, all references to ex-combatants, violent extreme groups and any other group of persons are deleted from the bill. 2. The bill is limited to the rehabilitation of drug-dependent persons and such other persons as may be identified by the law. B. Clause 3, 4A, 4B, 6B, 23, 24, 25(2), 27, 28(1), 34, 35 and 37, the definition of the rehabilitation within brackets of the bill are inconsistent with Article 12(1) of the Constitution and as such may be enacted only by the special majority required by Article 84(2) of the Constitution. However, the said inconsistencies shall cease if said clauses are amended as follows. Clause 6B within bracket, the following 5 members hereinafter referred as appointed members to be appointed by the minister. 1. 2 persons who shall possess academic and professional qualifications to have experience in the field of rehabilitation. 2. 2 persons who shall possess academic and professional qualifications and have experience in the field of social integration. And number 3, 1 person who shall possess academic professional qualifications and have experience in the field of law and order. E, clause number 26 and 28(2) of the bill are inconsistent with Article 11 of the Constitution. As such, may be enacted only by the special majority required by Article 84(2) of the Constitution and upon being approved by the people at a referendum as stipulated by Article 83 of the Constitution. The said inconsistency shall cease if the words without reasonable cause in clause 26 are deleted. 2. The words within bracket all such means including close bracket in clause 28(2) are deleted. F. Clause 29 of the bill is inconsistent with Article 76. Read together with Articles 3 and 4 of the Constitution as such may be enacted only by special majority required by Article 84(2) of the Constitution and upon being approved by the people at a referendum as stipulated by the Article 83 of the Constitution. The said inconsistency shall cease if clause 29 is amended by deletion of the words or words within brackets, within inverted commas, or any rule.
8 petitions were filed with the Supreme Court challenging the Bureau of Rehabilitation Bill, and they were filed by SJB MP S.M. Marika, attorney Amile Godamahawatta, Reverend Father Jeevantha Piris, rights activist Ambika Satkunanathan, among others. The petitions were examined by Supreme Court Justices G.R. Samarasekara, Mahinda Samayawardana and Arjuna Obesekara.
We saw the horror of this bill as the SJB. We see the violence that is going to be done through this, the suppression that is going to be done through this. The right to expression of opinions of the people, their freedom of speech, is going to be completely controlled. Accordingly, I went to court about 3 weeks ago representing the Samagi Janabalevegya with Tarakadana Ikara. Today the court has rejected the attempt made via the bill on the Bureau of Rehabilitation to suppress the members of the Aragalaya and the attempt to rehabilitate those who hold opinions contrary to the political views of the government, or the attempt to undermine the democracy of this country by threatening to rehabilitate any person that stands against the government. Meanwhile, the 22nd Amendment to the Constitution was taken up for debate in Parliament today. After the debate tomorrow, the bill will be taken up for a vote. The prohibition on dual citizens in the 22nd Amendment should not be changed. If amendments are suggested to that provision, we will oppose the bill. The power of the President to dissolve Parliament should also be set at 2.5 years. If these conditions are met, we will support this bill. We will introduce a Legislative Council to maintain checks and balances on the powers exercised by the President. Several proposals were made that the President should not even be allowed to hold the position of Minister of Defence. We cannot agree to that on policy. The power of the President to dissolve Parliament will be kept at 2.5 years. He voted in favour of the 19th Amendment. He voted in favour of the 20th Amendment as well. Now he is saying that the 20th is wrong. What is this joke? They took the power of Parliament, the Prime Minister and the Speaker and gave it to the President. They are slaves. They created a Superman. In the end, what did that Superman do? He destroyed the people of this country. He destroyed the farmers. He destroyed all sectors in the country. In the end, he fled the country. After fleeing the country, he has now returned and is enjoying retirement at a government-sponsored mansion. The time of this government is over. Please leave. The opposition was hoping that there will be a division in the government regarding the 22nd Amendment to the Constitution and that you can claim ministerial positions through that conflict. This amendment will be passed by tomorrow. You are in pain and anger because of this. We understand that. When we vote in favour of this amendment, we may be accused of supporting the government. But in this issue, we accept the fact that this amendment is good for the people. Therefore, we are supporting this amendment from the side of the people. Although the amendment was presented, there is a large group of the Pohottua, including its General Secretary, who have criticized several provisions in it. They are not accepting them. I condemn the attempt made to come into power through these means while the people of the country are starving. They are going around the country saying, "Rise up again." We can see that the family that stole from the entire nation and destroyed the lives of the people is still greedy for power. I strongly believe that the Aragalaya is the only way to throw out corrupt politicians. We have decided that although the 22nd Amendment does not create a massive change, although it does not bring about the system change demanded for by the people, there is something good in this. Therefore, we will vote in favour of this. But we clearly state that this cannot be the final solution. Having divisions is a sign of good democracy. It is because there was no such healthy divisions in the Pohottua party that our government, that was 150 strong, has now dropped to 130 or 120. We will vote in favour of the amendment to preclude dual citizens from sitting in this parliament. If Basil Rajapaksa wants to engage in politics, he will revoke his dual citizenship and come here and engage in politics. There is no issue there.
Parliamentarian M.A. Sumanthiran called on the government to go for a referendum if it actually wants reforms.
On the turn of this millennium, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, every time you say you have made a mistake and you want to change it. What type of parliament is this that swings like this from one end to the other? No wonder that the country says to be done with these 225. They want a system change, not tinkering with the constitution. This bill that is before this house today, after it is passed, if it is passed, it will still retain all the powers of the executive presidency that the president enjoys under the 20th Amendment to the Constitution. So this is a fraud on the country. Now you are telling the people, because people want to change this, they want to abolish executive presidency, you are lying to the people saying this is a first step towards that, when in fact none of the powers of the executive president are taken away by this bill. It's false. You are lying to the people of this country. Today, there was a good determination on the Bureau of Rehabilitation Bill. We said, as it was presented, we said withdraw it. It goes against the fundamental principles that a person must be presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. People have asked for a change, and what you are trying to do is pull wool over the eyes of the people. You are pretending to the country that you are making some reform, when in fact you are not making any reform. If you want to do a reform, do it, take it to the people at a referendum. Why are you fighting shy of a referendum? After all, people have asked for this.
The Socialist Youth Union today filed a fundamental rights application naming police officers who charged at protesters who were protesting at Lipton Circus on the 24th of September this year. 10 police officers, including the Inspector General of Police, C.D. Vikramaratne, Senior DIG in charge of the Western Province, Deshabandhu Tennakon, SP for Colombo South, C.A. Abesiriwardhana, were named as respondents by 2 lawyers who were attacked during the protest. Whether we informed them or not, we got beaten. They have a common intention to subvert democracy, and this is one of their signals asking us not to take to the streets. Let's see how this battle will go.
Sri Lanka's central bank governor said that the only alternative for economic recovery is to work with the IMF. He made this comment at the president's media division today.
What we have to do next is to approach our bilateral creditors, India, Japan, China, and commercial creditors and obtain an assurance on relief that can be provided to us for our debt repayments. If we have to pay $7 billion a year, we will be seeking a certain time period for the repayment. The International Monetary Fund can only release a loan to Sri Lanka if the country can secure those assurances. We are following that program. We need to address the shortcomings of the tax and monetary policies and then restructure our debt. The IMF has accepted our program, and if we restructure our debt, they will help us. The World Bank, Asian Development Bank and other groups will also come forward. We can only recover by carrying this program forward. That is why it is important to implement the tax policy. We also need other reforms to be implemented in a timely manner.
The decision has been taken to wind up the operations of the COVID-19 Health and Social Security Fund, also known as the Itukama Fund, which was established to provide relief to those affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. Cabinet approval has been obtained for this.
The COVID-19 Health and Security Fund had received a total of 2,207,164,785 rupees and 58 cents in donations. As of 18th of October 2022, the sum remaining in the COVID fund was 216,877,431 rupees and 5 cents, which has been credited to the President's Fund to provide for surgery and medical aid assistance.
The Sri Lanka Nidahas Sevaka Sangame attached to the Sri Lankan Airlines called on the Mahanayaka Thera today to present their report on the national carrier. They first visited the Askari Mahaviharaya. They then arrived at the Malwathu Mahaviharaya. Thereafter, the group called on the chief incumbent of the Rajopavana Rama temple in Gatambe. Political parties in the opposition met in Parliament today to sign a joint declaration opposing the government's decision to delay the local government election. The Samagijana Balavegya, Sri Lanka Freedom Party, National Freedom Front, Democratic Left Front, 43rd Brigade, Tamil National Alliance, Pivithuru Helurumaya, the Sri Lanka Mahajana Party, Lanka Samasamaja Party, Sri Lanka Communist Party, All Ceylon Muslim Congress, Navalanka Freedom Party, the Democratic People's Front, the Vijayadharani Janata Sabha, the Frontline Socialist Party and the Uttara Sabhagaya signed the declaration. But the Janata Vimukti Peramuna-led National People's Power did not endorse this. A unanimous decision was reached to strongly oppose individually or collectively any move made by the government to delay the polls under the guise of electoral reforms.
The participants agreed that timely changes in respect of electoral laws should be addressed in a continuing time frame, but insisted that this should not in any manner be used as a pretext for the postponement of elections. They emphasized as a fundamental and non-negotiable principle the paramount need to hold elections at the proper time. Any departure from this would constitute an intolerable onslaught on the franchise of the people. They noted furthermore that the electoral process in respect of the local government elections had already commenced and is currently in progress. The Election Commission has a constitutional and statutory duty to hold the elections as scheduled. The participants unanimously resolved to resist with vigor all initiatives in Parliament aimed at the postponement of elections, to inform the public by appropriate modalities throughout the country of the fraud sought to be perpetuated against the people, and to take all steps necessary by resorting to suitable judicial proceedings and all other democratic efforts to defeat the government's attempts to destroy the very foundations of democracy.
Sri Lanka Life Saving marked its 75th anniversary with an art competition yesterday.
Sri Lanka Life Saving successfully concluded the special program organized in commemoration of the 75th anniversary of Sri Lanka Life Saving, the 75-year partnership between Sri Lanka Life Saving and Australia, and the 10-year partnership between Sri Lanka and Australia. The certificate awarding ceremony of the We Are Waterwise art competition for school children that was organized by Sri Lanka Life Saving to celebrate its 75th anniversary was also held in conjunction with this program. The event was graced by Paul Stevens, the High Commissioner of Australia, as well as other dignitaries from the Australian High Commission, Sri Lanka and Maldives.
After just 45 days in the job, British Prime Minister Liz Truss has resigned as UK's Prime Minister and the leader of the Conservative Party in a statement outside Downing Street. Her resignation comes as the UK is in the midst of a worsening economic crisis.
British Prime Minister Liz Truss has dramatically resigned as Prime Minister after just 45 days in the job. Liz Truss, who took office 44 days ago, will become the shortest serving Prime Minister in British history when she steps down. The PM said her successor will be elected in a Tory leadership contest to be competed in the next week.
I was elected by the Conservative Party with a mandate to change this. We delivered on energy bills and on cutting national insurance. And we set out a vision for a low-tax, high-growth economy that would take advantage of the freedoms of Brexit. I recognise, though, given the situation, I cannot deliver the mandate on which I was elected by the Conservative Party. I have therefore spoken to His Majesty the King to notify him that I am resigning as leader of the Conservative Party. This morning I met the chairman of the 1922 committee, Sir Graham Brady. We've agreed that there will be a leadership election to be completed within the next week. This will ensure that we remain on a path to deliver our fiscal plans and maintain our country's economic stability and national security. I will remain as Prime Minister until a successor has been chosen. Thank you.
Iran's state-sponsored media has turned their focus from state propaganda to US icon Britney Spears.
US icon Britney Spears tweeted her support for the Iranian citizens currently protesting the country's morality police, and Iran's state-sponsored media shot back on Twitter by mentioning Spears' years-long conservatorship. The Iranian media response is part of an ongoing strategy to drown out widespread support for Iran's nationwide protests. Earlier this year, Spears married an Iranian-American actor and model, Sam Asghari. Since the protests began, the couple has been extremely vocal about their political beliefs, including her support for the Iranian protesters. The current protests center around the September death of 22-year-old activist Masha Amini. Amini was arrested by Iran's morality police in Tehran under claims that she was not properly clothed in the required religious headscarf and modest dress. She died in police custody.
That's a wrap of Primetime News on TV1 for tonight. Take care and God bless.